Thanks, Joe. Welcome, everyone. Glad to be here and glad you guys are here with us as well. So, what I wanted to do is I wanted to actually kind of each month or each time we have one of these calls, I'm going to build some of the topics from the one I did last time and kind of have them build on top of each other until, of course, somebody reaches out and says, "Hey, Brian, I'd really like to if you could dig into a specific topic." So, I am encouraging that when it comes to how can we overcome our operational challenges. So, in the last meeting, I spoke about chaos not being a problem in business, but being a symptom that there is deeper problem. We talked about that deeper problem being the lack of clarity. So today, what I want to do is go a little bit deeper. When clarity is missing in the business, there's a bunch of reasons why, and today I want to focus on the reason of the leader has not decided. The leader has not decided. So this is talking about leadership and the leader being the bottleneck. When growth slows, most leaders will start to blame the market. They might even blame their team, capacity, systems, but rarely do they ask themselves, well, what decisions are sitting with me that I haven't made yet? Responsibility isn't just about effort, it's about decisiveness. So how do these bottlenecks in our business start to form? We need to kind of go and look a little bit deeper, more than just the surface behaviors. But leaders do not become bottlenecks because they're incompetent. You're not going to be running a business and be incompetent. It's probably pretty hard to do both. But they become bottlenecks because maybe the leader wants more information before acting. Maybe there's the fear of making the wrong call. Maybe they're kind of reopening decisions that have actually already been settled, but they're not comfortable with them and they want to reopen them again. Maybe they want to be involved in every aspect of the business and truly do want to bottleneck all those decisions. What ends up happening is you get this confusion in leadership, in confusion in who's running the ship. Every decision that you delay as a leader becomes friction that your team must carry. So think about that for a second. You as the leader make a leadership decision, you drag it out, you delay it. Now your team is carrying that friction. So when leaders hesitate, the team naturally hesitates. And sometimes the leaders go, what's going on? Why are we not moving fast enough? When leaders waffle on a decision, the team stalls. When leaders are unclear, the team starts guessing. And guessing, guess what? Creates chaos. So if we take a look, if you think about it in like three boxes, I want you to kind of envision three boxes. You've got vision, you've got decisions, and then you've got execution. Visions without decisions create confusion. Decisions without execution creates frustration, and execution without vision just creates a drift. We're just out there drifting. We're not actually executing on the vision that we had. Most organizations don't actually lack vision, they lack timely decisions, and that's exactly where the bottlenecks arrive. So if you think about the analogy like a traffic light and you've got four incoming lanes, as an example, you've got sales coming in, operations, finance, people, you got the leader in the center. Well, obviously early on in the business, this works. Small company, low volume, the leader manually directs everything. This actually kind of works, but as volume increases, as the traffic in those lanes start to increase, the tasks start to stack up. People start waiting for things. Energy starts to drain and frustration builds. Nothing is broken yet, but everything is now slowing down and becoming congested, and it's operating a lot slower than it should be. So growth increases volume. Volume then exposes dependencies, and dependencies are where the bottlenecks will start to show up. So in our business as leaders, if we take a look at the concepts of control versus stewardship, this is where we can kind of get into figure out where some of that deep tension is in our lack of decision or lack of timely decision making. Most bottlenecks are not, as I said, about incompetence. They're about control. Control feels safe. Control says if I decide everything, nothing possibly could break. Whereas stewardship, on the other hand, says if I define myself clearly, others can act confidently. Control says I approve everything. Control says I approve everything. Control says I solve every conflict. Control says I'm needed in every room and I'm the final answer. Listen to this. Stewardship says, I define outcomes. I assign ownership. I set boundaries, and I empower authority. And I liken that stewardship model to, one of the ways that I used to parent when my kids were younger, and people would ask me about my parenting style. I said, well, my parenting style kind of resembles a boxing ring. My kids are in the boxing ring, and they're doing their thing, and I'm letting them do their thing. I'm letting them trip. I'm letting them fall. I'm letting them make mistakes. But I'm the ropes around that ring, and I'm not going to let them go right out and get right out of bounds and actually fall to the concrete and hurt themselves. So as a steward leader, I define the outcomes, I assign the ownership, I set those boundaries, and then I empower the authority inside so they can do what needs to be done. So control centralizes that power. Stewardship multiplies it. And that's what we want to do. We want to multiply. Leadership is all about multiplication. John Maxwell writes a lot about this in a variety of his books. He says that, as a leader, our duty, our job is to multiply our leadership through other leaders that we help. So everything is going to depend on, when everything kind of depends on us, well, nothing can really get multiplied or nothing can get done. So then the cost of indecision, the cost of delaying, the cost of just, not making the decisions. If unmade decisions, they create meetings about meetings. We've all been in those before, or meetings that really should have been an email. They create a lot of rework. They create quiet disengagement. They create passive resistance, and they create team frustration. Indecisions does not feel dramatic. It feels like delay, but delay compounds. Under indecisions, if we think about like creating a list of what indecision does, and indecisions is instability. Indecisions is hesitation. It's second guessing. It's energy loss. Compare that to clarity, which is confidence, momentum, alignment, flow, everybody on the same page. Leadership instability spreads to organizational instability, and that's when you really start to feel it. That's when the team starts to feel it. Your team doesn't need perfect decisions from you. They just need consistent decisions from you. So some leaders think, being a bottleneck is kind of noble. It's where I want to be. I want to control everything. They think that it shows responsibility, it shows care, it shows involvement, but leadership's not about carrying everyone. Leadership's about creating guidance. Guidance means direction that others can operate within. If your team constantly waits for you, guidance is not there. It's insufficient. So ask yourself some kind of self-reflecting questions. What decisions keep routinely coming back to you? What am I holding on to because I don't trust others? What have I delayed because it feels uncomfortable? Or maybe what have I delayed because I feel scared to what could be out on the other side of that decision? What would move immediately if I decided today? Think about that for a second. What would my business look like if I actually made some of these key decisions today? So as business leaders, we need to somewhat think about removing ourselves as the constraint in our business. If chaos reveals missing clarity, bottlenecks are the ones that reveal missing decisions. Growth doesn't require more hustle, more energy. It requires fewer unsolved decisions or unresolved decisions. The goal of leadership is not to be needed, it's to create flow, and flow happens when leaders are decisive.